Welcome back to another episode of Generally Assembled, your favorite House Republican podcast. My name is Jason Gottesman, once again joined by State Representative, Education Chairman, and all-around good guy, Jesse Topper.
I appreciate that. Ruth will appreciate that too.
Well, I've over the winter break, I heard somebody say or tell me that if you, what do you call it? If you forecast your own destiny, right? Like you're like, I want to be. I want to make $150,000 a year by the time I'm 35. If you write it down, it'll happen, right?
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, something like that, right? Exactly like that.
Evangelical Pentecostal term, right?
Yeah.
Speak it into existence, it'll happen.
Yeah, so, before I get out of bed every morning, I say to myself, let not today be the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Yes, folks, this is a serious podcast.
No, wait. It seems like every time we come up with a thought like this could be another name of a podcast. Boy, let today not be the worst. Just let it not be the worst day of my life. That's great. Well, I tell you what, for a lot of students that were out on the Capitol steps today, this was a big day.
It's a huge day, and this week is huge. Look, let's look at some of the real, actual problems facing Pennsylvania, not the made-up problems that people talk about. To
William Penn statue.
Well, that was a real problem.
No. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. The fact that the statue was a problem. And
all right.
Very
good.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
I should have clarified.
You're right.
So as not to step on Jason's biggest accomplishment
of the year. Not even the session. Not the session. I have things that I'm proud of.
I do. I framed that poorly, and I knew it as soon as the words, as soon as they left my mouth. I'm like, oh, he's going to take serious offense to that. What I meant was the original statue being such a problem.
Especially I love the stories that came out that said Native Americans wanted to highlight their history. They didn't want to get rid of the Penn statue.
Right. Absolutely. That was the way we handled it was absolutely well done.
Yeah.
Kudos,
right.
Jason.
So thank you. Anyway, look, it's National School Choice Week. And one of the real problems that is facing Pennsylvanians, students and families, is many of them remain trapped in schools that are, for many different reasons, underperforming and not serving their students well. And they have no way to get out. And test scores are still not back to pre-pandemic levels. The metrics by which we judge student success and achievement still aren't there, and at least in the traditional school setting. And that is despite years and years and years of historic increasing investment in public education, traditional public education from the Commonwealth. And, as you've talked a lot about, and others in our caucus have talked about, while we seek that transformational change all throughout education, which is multifaceted. One of the easiest ways that we can get students out of their failing schools to get them in a higher performing school. But we need the mechanisms to do that for more students through school choice.
And I was trying to think of, when you're asked to speak at something like this, and it's brief. I think my comments were 2 minutes maybe. You understand, A, you're outside in the cold, and B, bunch of kids are
chilly day
you.
today
right.
for an outside press conference.
But you're thinking to yourself, like, what do I want to say? How do I want to maximize whatever time I have? And I was thinking on the drive this morning, it really comes down to the student, not the school. Yes, there are certainly underperforming schools. We call them, at least I have used the term, schools in crisis. But you know what? There's some public schools that are doing everything right. And by every metric, they're great, and their test scores are great, and they have a great local tax base, and they have a Taj Mahal of a building, and they have a swimming program, and all these things. And you know what? Even that school might not be right for a certain student. And we have to acknowledge, because most of the students out there today were charter or cyber charter students. We have to acknowledge that for those students, even if the school is outstanding, they learn better a different way. They need, for whatever reason, maybe it's something physical, maybe it's something emotional, maybe it's a family situation, maybe they're working to excel in music or sports in a traveling way that cyber school is the best for them or homeschooling is the best for them. But at the end of the day, and this is what I ended up saying, at least in some form or fashion, when I look back, I don't see charter school students when I tour a public school, I don't see public school students. I just see students.
Yeah.
I see students. I see kids. I see families that are just looking for the best way that their kid can achieve success. And if we just start breaking down those silos and keeping kind of the most important thing, and we make it student focused, everything we've done. Listen, we've had 8 years of the Wolf administration, a year and a little bit of the Shapiro administration, and I served at the tail end of the Corbett administration, right? So I've served with 3 governors. You know that during the Wolf administration, who I don't think anybody's going to argue was a pro-school choice administration, and yet we saw historic investments in the EITC and OSTC that had never been seen before. We saw 2 major pieces of homeschooling freedom legislation passed and signed into law, signed through school codes. You know, my point is, we have really been able to make some advances in a state and situations where we might not see some of the little gains that have been made, but they've really been actually big gains. And I look back at those students today and I thought, for these kids, their lives have been changed by the opportunity they've received through education. And if we just keep that in the forefront of our mind when we're talking public policy, so many great things have been and will continue to be done. It's just that I think, especially with an issue like education, you know, and it's easy to take pot shots at the media. I'm not doing that just to be grotesque about it. I'm just saying that it's easy for them to report on everything that's wrong, right? Or they disagreed on pass, or they disagreed on, you know, funding, or they, you know, one side wants this, one side. But there's also a lot of things that we've agreed on and gotten done that really has been pro-student. And I'm just trying to keep the conversation focused on that. Because when you keep it focused on the student and the family's ability to help that student along, boy, that opens up all kinds of conversations in public education. And remember, specifically our charters and our cybers, they're public schools. They're authorized by PDE or a local school district.
Sure.
We haven't even gotten into the whole private school conversation, but these kids, you know, they need these opportunities, and what we need to do, though, also in the charter and cyber charter space, is to have accountability, because those options have to be high quality too. You know, it's not just going to assume that because they're a cyber or they're a charter, they're high quality. We need to have accountability there as well. We just need more accountability and more student focus, and if we can do that, I think you're going to continue to see positive things in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think where we often lose focus, and I think I wouldn't say Republicans lose focus, but I think where the conversation differs is that lack of a unified focus, right? Republicans and generally, and families that are looking for better options, are focused on the students. When you start talking about what's coming many times from the other side on this debate, is a focus on schools, a focus on teachers, all of which is fine and good. Institutions,
but it's
right.
institution, it's
Correct.
fiefdoms, it's those silos,
Right.
it's school boards, it's the kind of the institute. Education is in of itself an industry.
Yep.
And when you start to look at the industry of education dictating public policy versus the students, you get some of what we see, right? You get that we need more money. Yeah, we all know it costs. It costs a charter school. It costs a public school, regular public school. It costs money to provide instruction. I know that. Every Republican understands that.
Sure.
You know, so we get the cost, but we're not just going to keep pouring money into a failing structure.
Right.
And that's what, you know, we commented this with our state system of higher education, and right, with the PASHE system. You change the structure, you see more funding. That's what we're asking here as well. We've got to change the structure of how education is delivered, and one of the reasons why charters and cyber charters and private schools have been more successful is because they've been allowed to be more dynamic in how they adjust, right? And they do it quicker. And we need some of our traditional K through 12s to adopt some of those models and adapt to some of those dynamic needs for our students. And again, you can do that when you're focused not on the institutionalized educational apparatus, but when you're focused on kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things in policy where it's tell me where you want to go and I'll tell you how to get there.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
And if you want to get to where students are successful, then you can build a path that gets you there.
And none
right?
of us are naive enough to think that every kid comes from a family that cares about them, supports them, and is invested in their education. And I understand that argument from a traditional public school aspect. Well, what about us who have to take everybody? We don't, not all of our kids, some of our kids, I mean, there are, we've all heard the stories. We've all seen them in our own districts of, the little 8-year-old making sure her brother gets to school, both in elementary school. Mom's out on some, drug binge somewhere, not even at the hotel where they're living. Those kind of stories. We get it. Like, we understand that that's part, and that's why our traditional publics have to be extremely high quality as well, because in some cases, they are that family. They're the safest place that some of those kids will be. And I think we as Republicans need to do a better job of acknowledging that as well, that we have to provide choice for the families that are invested, but also acknowledge that for those families that aren't, then we have to pick up the slack and figure it out, not just as schools, by the way, but as communities, as religious institutions, as community organizations, as neighbors, as people. This is not something that can just be solved with government money, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if people can tell, but I am a proud product of the public school system.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my parents had no reason to want to seek out an alternative. I went to a high-performing, well-respected, very normal and average public school here in Pennsylvania. And then in college I went to public school as well. But, there are, in many places, other than for religious beliefs or what have you, there is no real reason to seek out an alternative, right? You might have moral problems with being taught in school, but it's not what kind of education they're getting. In some places, there is a deep need to get out of that school.
That's right.
And to get out of that institution. And it's making sure that those options are robust, that they're affordable, and those schools will take those students. There are non-public schools, private schools, charter schools that will take the students, but they don't, especially non-public schools, don't get the support. They get supported by the students that they teach and the families that they teach. And if students want to go there, that we need to find a mechanism to make sure that the resources exist to make sure that they're educated.
In some cases, it's truly a choice of how my student can learn the best. And then in some cases, it's a choice of life and death. Like, if this child is going to escape a particular lifestyle that could get him or her killed, I have to move them. Like, that's when those decisions become not just, and all of those choices need to be available for both. Yeah. But there are some critical life and death decisions that will take place based on student choice. And I think the good thing is to highlight all of the different ideas that are behind school choice. Something like School Choice Week does that, and start to break down a little bit of the stigma. Well, if you're pro school choice, you must be anti public school. That's nonsense. In fact, because the most, and I said this, I think, in one of the House Republican videos that I've done over the past 2 weeks.
Well, you've been here, so you've been available.
Right. But in one of them, I think I made the point that the most robust choice system is when all the choices are quality.
That's exactly right. That's what I was trying to say before.
Right. Really when the system really works the best. So let's improve all of them.
And look, I think you're absolutely right. Let's go back to where we started, which is where the focus needs to be on the student. When we talk about funding school choice options, there really isn't there's no discussion about directly funding private schools. What we talk about is funding families and funding the students, right? Making sure that those state money is available for students and families to be able to make the decisions right for them. Not necessarily funding the system, because I think it's inherently, as Republicans, we believe in empowering the freedom of the individual rather than empowering these large institutions and systems, especially when they continue
more
to fail.
Freedom for the individual, more accountability for the institutions.
Yes, exactly.
That should really be our goal.
Yep. All right, well, let's leave that discussion there. Lots of other things going on in the world. Where do we start?
Big news in the NFL. I mean, I grew up in the Scott Norwood wide right, and I was watching that game, and I'll be honest, I was rooting for Buffalo, just because, quite frankly, the Chiefs Ravens didn't. I wanted to see something different. Right?
Yeah.
I can never root for the Ravens ever. And then the Chiefs have been there, so many times, even though I love Andy Reid. But
can we just root for the Lions?
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the AFC. But anyway, I was rooting for Buffalo, and when I heard when the call was made,
Yeah.
wide right, I'm like, how many people in Buffalo just felt like
Oh, yeah.
they got stomach punched again, wide right. It was a great ball game. I feel bad for Buffalo, so I guess we'll get to see Taylor Swift in Baltimore.
I guess so. I'm not watching though. I don't really watch AFC football all that much. I mean, I'll watch it, but like I wasn't like excited to tune into the AFC divisional.
Wait, what?
Divisional game. I'm not watching.
There's the greatest franchise in all of Pennsylvania history.
I watch the Eagles. I watch the Eagles. That's what I do.
Who would have thought that your team would be such a dumpster fire?
They
by
were a
the end of
dumpster
the
fire.
year?
I was saying by like week 5 that they were terrible.
You know what?
football
I'm
team.
rooting for the Chiefs now, so that you guys can watch Andy Reid go to yet another Super Bowl.
I hope.
after you got rid-
I hope he does. Andy Reid deserved better than Donovan McNabb. He deserved better than the football teams he had. He did.
He just needed
he
another
did.
city to coach in, I guess.
I think. Look, a city.
I didn't. Well, how did I not know you were an Eagles fan?
I grew up in Bucks County. What do you expect? Eagles,
Okay.
Phillies.
You know what? We're about
Flyers. Don't really watch much basketball, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's only one Pennsylvania. The 76ers are the only. Pro
but
basketball team
even
in
so, like I watch college basketball. I
Yeah.
watch college basketball, but
All right. Well, you know what? This is going to set the stage for some future podcasts.
Well, that look, that's fine. But look, even as far as sports go, I'm more inclined to watch hockey than football. I like football, but I don't like
Well,
I don't
you know
I
what?
don't
It's
obsess over
funny
it.
because Pennsylvania
College football I do.
So I'm obviously a big Steelers fan, and
Yeah.
I rooted for the Eagles in the Super Bowl every time they played. Because they were playing the Patriots, but I don't like. They're not rivals. Like to me,
Yeah.
the rivals of the Steelers are the Ravens,
Right.
That the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals,
Right.
Even though they're in state, it's not really the Eagles. So that's I was just being funny.
No, but I think it's fair, and like if the Steelers were in the world, or if the Steelers were in the Super Bowl, jeez.
They have a better chance of making the World
How
Series
about
than
that
the Pirates
sports?
do.
How about that sports ball game on the other night, huh? If the Steelers were in the Super Bowl, obviously, when they have been, I'm rooting for them. But like I'm not, I flipped back and forth during the divisional game this last week with the Chiefs and the Bills, but I wasn't like standing up in my living room like
Yeah.
I was when Montana was in the national championship game.
I was Super Bowl.
What?
Wait, the national championship?
Montana,
game?
the football, the football championship subdivision.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. You're a Montana guy.
Well, I'm
I forgot about that.
Montana alum.
Yeah.
so-
Congratulations.
well, they lost.
no, but the fact that you were able to watch
I-
Montana
I
on
was
TV.
ABC.
That's right.
No, they were on TV for several straight weeks on ESPN2
Yeah,
for a
that's
while, and
great.
then the championship game was on ABC during Sunday, afternoon.
Little amateur
7th.
football.
Well, hey, look. Speaking of amateurs,
Right. I was,
How about for a
I was
transition?
trying to set you up
there
for
we
that
go.
transition.
Nick Dunlap, first amateur to win a PGA Tour event in 33 years.
Since
Phil Mickelson.
Mickelson, right?
Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, Mickelson.
Yep.
What a moment! What a great moment for that. It's listen. I was texting with Josh about that. I said the great thing about golf is that you can have Tom Watson. You guys remember the British Open, where I feel so bad for Stuart Sink, who I really like.
Yeah.
That his only major is one that everybody wanted to see him lose.
Tom Watson losing set back my cancer recovery by like 3 weeks. I was laying in the hospital bed, and I wouldn't speak to people for like 2 days. I'm like, I can't.
But like the golf is the only sport where you can have that at one level and a 20-year-old amateur, and they can both. It just depends on how you play.
Yep.
It doesn't matter that you're in the prime of your career or that you're less talented or on it. It's the beauty of golf and watching it again, and the kid and his emotion with that victory. It was just another reinforcement. It's truly become my favorite sport, no question.
Yeah, and look, even in over the last 2 weeks in the DP World Tour, you had Rory McIlroy, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, lose it on the last hole to Tommy Fleetwood, knocked it in the water in not in Dubai, I think it was in Qatar, and then in Dubai this last weekend, wins it on basically, secures it on the 18th with another with a par, but he look, you couldn't have golf. Literally any given day, you could be on fire. I like Justin Thomas in the third round. He goes out and shoots 60. and he's like, I was on fire. I just didn't know I'd have to have some college kid beat me.
Yeah, no, and that was a great interaction of him with Dunlap after on the 18th. Shake. I mean, think of that kid.
Yeah,
like we're gonna go play this event. Who knows how it's gonna be? And you end up with Justin Thomas on the 18th green, congratulating you for a
two-time
victory.
major winner.
Come on,
yeah.
What? Like, its dreams are made of that.
I mean,
stuff.
look, Dunlap also did win the U.S. Amateur last year, so it's not like
good.
It's not like he's out of nowhere.
No, but. Justin Thomas wasn't at the U.S. Amateur. I can tell you that.
That's absolutely true.
That was great. Just another great sports moment.
Well, I think that's it.
You got a busy day. You got a busy day today. I know that you are working hard on behalf of the caucus, and I appreciate your efforts.
Hey, I appreciate you and your efforts. Take time out of
how
a
is this
busy
positive
schedule.
reinforcement? This is pretty good. This feels good.
I have had a very busy day, and I appreciate you recognizing that. All right, that's generally assembled for this week. We promised Ruth Topper that the person who's responsible for advertising these podcasts will make it much more visible next time around. But all right, generally assembled for this week. You can find this podcast where all of your favorite House Republican podcasts are found, if you can find them, at www.pahousegop.com/mypodcast. Also on Apple. We're also on Spotify and YouTube.
Yes.
If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm really sorry.
Yes.
All right. Generally assembled. I think that's it. That's what we do. We don't do anything else except beep, boop, beep. We're out.